week we are talking about no BS time management for entrepreneurs, and we will be reviewing chapters 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6.
Yes, 4, 5, and 6. So we will go ahead and get started. So Steve, I'll let you kind of get started. Were there any questions or any conversations that you wanted to maybe dive into from chapters 1 through 3, since you missed that conversation last week?
I say we plow forward. It's all on YouTube. If somebody wanted to see, I'm sure y'all broke it down like crazy last week, but I don't want to get in the weeds. I want to hit all 3 of these chapters this week because they were, I mean, for me, it's just the big thing about it is just putting, like, what was it? Chapter 1's how to, basically put a number on what you make, like what you really make, not just an hourly, but if really, I mean, seriously, come on, how much do we really work? If it's really like 3 hours a day where we're like full board crazy, how much is that? You know what I mean? And to know that number, what was chapter 2? Chapter 2 was how to cheat time.
Yes, the time vampires.
That was chapter 3, was the time vampires, which I love that because we've all dealt with them and seen them, and I hate to say it, probably at times been them and didn't realize we were doing it.
I've never done that, Steve. I would like you to not accuse me of that. Very hurtful.
One of my favorite things.
I'm not a part of that.
One of my favorite things he talked about was the in the meeting thing. The 2 toughest CEOs I know hold only stand-up meetings. There are no chairs. And then talked about how I think you do a meeting right before lunch or right before everybody goes home.
Yes.
Let's rock and roll. No chairs right before lunch, right before we go home. Let's rock and roll, boys and girls, and get the hell out of here.
Correct. So it sounds like you recap those last chapters and you are definitely caught up. So chapter 4 talks about interruptions and productivity. So how many of you guys find yourselves on a daily basis being interrupted? Like, I don't know, once every 8 minutes, as the book says. How does that feel in your day when you're interrupted, and how do you combat that now that you're reading this book and know that you should not be allowing yourself to get interrupted?
So, I may have actually found, like, I paid attention to this a lot about 2 or 3 years ago. And so Laura, you can probably attest to this too. So like, I've actually even configured my phone and like everything around me to where like, and I don't know if it's supposed to be this way, but I mean, it's been like this, but it's just like my interruption rate may be a little bit longer than like, because I'll go like 30 minutes to an hour with absolutely no interruptions. But it's because like my phone, between the hours of 9 and 4, it's off. And like there are a handful of folks that can actually get through to my phone. And then people know me well enough in emergencies, call twice. And so otherwise they're like, oh, I'll just hit him up, after work, or he usually looks at his text messages at this point. So it's like that actually, like I can attest to this, that it really does work because you can be so much more productive just in like, when he kind of talks about cheating time, it's like, you think about, what is it, one every 3 hours is truly productive. And it's like, if you can have uninterrupted time for that hour, it's like, honestly, you probably increase those odds. So like this has actually really worked for me. So
good.
To me,
faxes I've never used though.
Like for realtors, obviously our biggest time is lead gen. That's the holy grail of our day. I mean, if we're not lead gen, we die. I mean, is what it is. So we have to set up our days to not be interrupted by that. How many realtors have spent that 9 to 11 putting out fires on the side while trying to make phone calls, but then the phone rings? And one of the things I started in here was, if you take inbound calls as they come, you are constantly stopping work on a task of known priority in favor of something or someone of unknown priority. that was like right across the face. Like, wow. I mean, so we just, and it's easier said than done, but how much crap email do we get? How many crap texts do we get? Like, so we have to figure out a way to just completely, and it's the ultimate challenge in real estate. But if something's burning, it'll be burning in 3 hours. It will be. It won't burn all the way down. It'll be burning in 3 hours. Let's move on.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're not giving that person 100%, but you're giving them 95%, 97%, whatever, and you have to, and if you jump every time they say jump, they don't have respect for you, which I guess we get into a little bit deeper in a little bit. But that was the one thing that jumped out at me from this book, or from this chapter. And what was the other one I just saw? I like the idea of setting the timer on the bomb, about people dropping in unexpectedly or whatever. Tom, I have a conference call starting in 15 minutes, but I wanted to take your call. I hope there'll be enough time for our discussion. Do you agree, or should we set up another time? I love that. Why can't we do that? Why can't I do that? If somebody calls me and I know I'm going to say, hey, look, I've got 4 minutes. If 4 minutes will work, let's do it. If not, let's put it on the calendar. I love that. And I need to do better about that. But I love the fact that that's what this chapter just, we know it doesn't, but in black and white, smacking you in the face for the whole chapter, it's like, okay, I guess we can't ignore it anymore.
No, we can't. And so he gives us kind of some key things to do, right? And I don't know about you guys, but like right now, today, every Tuesday is time blocked. My phone is not allowed to ring. My emails are not allowed to ding. And my text messages are ignored. So I find myself, and maybe you guys do this as well, time blocking and being very aggressive with protecting my time in some areas of my day. And then other areas of my day, I find it to just like completely fall apart. And I don't understand that, right? Like when I'm interviewing a client,
right,
I make a purpose to tell them, you can't talk to me after 8 o'clock, right? And I set that expectation on the front end. And he keeps repeating something over and over and over in the book, which I think is key. When I implemented this strategy, no one pushed back or cared.
Right.
And so I don't understand why, me being probably one of the biggest violators, that I don't implement this literally in my entire day, right? Because I implement it in so many areas of my life. So some of the key things that he talks about is don't be accessible, right? Don't be around. Don't let somebody just chat with you. And I don't know if you know Brooke Woolley. She is a flippin' master at this. When you call her, and I think Mike Price just set up the same thing, when her phone rings, I think she actually has it set up to send a text message that says, I am busy. I will call you back later. If you figure it out, let me know, or something like that.
I love it.
And as soon as it rings, I get that text message from both her and Mike. So I have a feeling there's a way to kind of automatically set that up. And we do it with smart campaigns, right? We get a funnel lead come in. My smart campaign automatically protects my time and reaches out to them. And that person doesn't realize it's a smart campaign. It looks like it's a text message from a person. But I think that we all need to, really kind of look at this and not be accessible. Don't answer the phone. How many of you can actually not answer the phone when it rings? Yes, David cannot answer the phone when it rings. I can attest to that.
Well, okay, that's a different phone call for a different day.
People are like that.
No dirty laundry here, boys and girls.
Yes. Another thing on his list was make a VIP list. I thought that was really cool because at night, a lot of us have that VIP list already set up. You turn your phone on Do Not Disturb, but if those 10 or 20, and he made it very clear that your VIP list is not more than 20 people. You don't need or like that many people, I promise.
VIP list has more than 2 dozen people on it. It's not a VIP list.
It is not a VIP list. And then get a grip on text, social media, and email. So out of those strategies, is there one that sticks out more, one that you want to implement more? What does that look like for your everyday, and how are you going to use that in your new time blocking management systems?
So one thing that I actually thought about when I was going through this, which I actually implementation of it, I don't think will be too hard. So it's the VIP list. I actually keep it on my phone, and it's in a specific spot, and I have to update it on a regular basis, because I mean, there's a handful of folks that are going to stay on there, like you guys, are saying, but there are other folks where it's just like, okay, well, this one needs to come off. Yes, Laura stays on there, and so I never thought about actually distributing access to my assistant, because then it makes it a tad bit easier to kind of maintain it, because the little trap that he talks about in the book is implementing something can be very like fulfilling, exciting, but then executing on it over a period of time becomes a little harder, and that's kind of where we fall off. And so I don't know, I just find as soon as my assistant knows about it, it's very consistent. Implementation is pretty easy though, for me anyway, so that's something for me. Like I think that's what I'm pretty excited about. That was the first thing I thought of going through this chapter.
Alicia, you've been quiet.
Yeah, so I'm on the inverse with the social media stuff. I'm never on there, and so like I heard what he was saying, but I don't think I'll have a problem moderating what I'm doing on there. But I'm at a point where I have to use it for business. So I love that he said that, because I agree. But I'm gonna have to break his rule and actually be on it for business.
Well, but I think if you follow his rule, I think the point is time block the time you're going to be on there, right? Don't be a me. And when you have 5 minutes, pick up the phone and hop on social media, because then I'm more than my 5 minutes, right? Next thing I know, I'm like, oh, well, that was a 30-minute time suck. Like, right?
And how many dollars per hour did that cost you by being on Facebook for 30 minutes that you didn't plan? Like, no, I'm guilty as you are. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, just damn this chapter. Damn it. But it's true. So, I mean, like you said, you got to time block that stuff, because I know there's a real good video by Kyle Whistle's team. Mike Proctor is one of his agents, talked about Facebook and time blocking that and going on and picking 20 specific people to go on their profile, like and comment on something or whatever, and do like 20, like you're in and out in 30 minutes if you do that. Just boom, 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 in and out, boom, and you're done. Go. But it's like, I think the important thing for him is, like he said, was it like the super entrepreneurs, like rich, very rich and very rich entrepreneurs, the richer they are, the less they personally have anything to do with any of this regarding like social media and emailing and texting, whatever. It's like, if we want to be super successful, we got to leave all that crap behind.
Mm-hmm.
I made an audible in the car when he said that, and I was like, yeah. And then I laughed. I love it.
Well, and I think if you're purposeful about the time, Steve, to your point, that you spend on those type of platforms, whether it be social media, whether it be email, my office manager, the director of operations I just hired, I'm going to actually have her help me set up my email to where it funnels. Like, I didn't even know that was an option, right? So anything that's an ad is going to go into a funnel, and I may or may not ever look at that file again. Right? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but during this 45-minute call, I will probably receive 30 plus emails.
Right.
And I feel like I spend half my day unsubscribing from email list of realtors that I never signed up for. Right? Total time suck. But if all their crap was going in a crap folder, I wouldn't need to spend that time on that email, and I would be able to spend more time answering emails purposefully that matter, as opposed to, okay, well, I only now have 10 minutes because I time block 30 minutes for email at this time during the day.
Right.
Right. So when you make that time purposeful, I think that what you do is more impactful as well in your day, because there's a limit. It's not an indefinite amount. So the last thing he talks about in chapter 4 is be busy and be obvious about it. So I love this, and by accident, I put this in place, and I could not be happier. So all these agents in my office have all been conditioned. I'm the first. If you've never been in my office, I'm the last or the first office at the front door, right? I'm the last one you see when you walk out, the first one you see when you walk in. And so these agents come into my office to work leads and whatever, and they'll go to the back room. And then, I don't know, a few minutes after they leave, I have no idea they're gone. I'll get a text message and it says, hey, I wanted to pop my head in your room, but you were on the phone and looked busy, so I decided not to disturb you.
Yep.
And when I read that at the end of this chapter, I was like, oh, I love looking busy. That does work. Because for me, if they would pop their head in, if Natalie pops her head and says, hey, I had a great day, I got a lead, my first question is, tell me about the lead, right? And I don't really have 15 or 20 minutes to coach her then. We have designated times that we work together, and that's where her coaching needs to come in place. And so I loved the be busy and make it obvious that you are. Like, I think that was like a phenomenal way to close that chapter. Who on this phone wanted to hide under a desk when you started reading chapter 5 as a realtor? Be on time. Early is on time. On time is late, and late unacceptable, my friend.
My thing is that I've had this happen to me recently, where how many times is it that we had a 3 o'clock appointment, we get there at 3 o'clock, and she's like, oh, I'm on the phone like for a couple more minutes here. Wait right here. I'll be done. And I almost left. I almost left right then. And I should have said, you know what? We can reschedule this. Mm-hmm. Because, and would have been done, because he doesn't see me as, the professional. You would never tell the doctor if the doctor came in, hey doc, can you come back? Can you come back in a couple of minutes? I'm still sitting, in my underwear on the table, come back in 5 minutes.
Well, the doctors are the worst about this. I don't know about you guys, but after sitting there naked for an hour, waiting on your OBGYN to come into a room, like, I have literally been putting on my clothes, looked at my doctor last year and said, would you like me to charge you for my bill? I sat for like 2 hours waiting on the doctor to come in, and Alicia probably can attest this. OBs are the worst, and it makes you angry, right? And we don't want to do that to our clients or the people that we're working with or that we're caring about, because it makes them feel unimportant. But more importantly, right, it shows them your time is not important, and it leaves room for disrespect for your time.
The other thing that he mentioned in here is with chapter 5, that's 6. He mentioned how like that already builds up your kind of the bank. If you start showing up early or whatever, you start putting money in the bank. That now they kind of, I don't want to say they owe you, but it's like, I'm the pro, I showed up, you're hiring me, I'm the pro, whereas if you're late, all of a sudden now you're kind of in debt. Mm-hmm.
It also sets an expectation too, I feel like, because essentially the story he was talking about with the employees, it's like, the doctor that couldn't tell time, he was so confused on my staff's never showing up. They're never doing anything. And it's like, well, dude, you're never showing up. You never do anything. So he was setting an expectation that was okay in his business. And so the employees, they're going to see that and take over,
I used to be able to, with the way Redfin is set up, to let customers know when they were late. Like, this is booked for 30 minutes, and then I have another appointment after this. I wasn't always great about sticking with that, but it was a really great out that, you know, a couple minutes aren't a big deal because it's right there to see the property. But 15 minutes, like really, you guys are going to see 5,000 square feet and decide if you want to buy it or not in 15 minutes. So it was a good way to let them know that they were really only disservicing themselves by being late. So I'm hoping that's something I can stick with in my new model.
What makes it hard for us as realtors is that if we get somebody and they buy and we're the agent, that's a really good check. Like a really, really good check. So it's like I'd love to just after 15, 20 minutes, tell them to pound sand or whatever. And I think all of us would, but at the same time, it's like, dang, if they showed up and love this house and we write an offer and get it, that's 3% on that. It's like, damn, that's a lot of money. And it's like, and that's what makes it hard to do that.
So let me just play a little bit of devil's advocate. What if before setting appointments, we all set that expectation before we even got to the appointment, right? Hey, Steve, I'm super excited to show you these 3 houses. We have an appointment set from 4 to 4:30. We have another appointment set for 4:45 to 5:15, and one set from 5:30 to 6 o'clock. We can't be late on any of these appointments as the home is scheduled with other showings, and we will miss out on our scheduled time if we're late. Right? Like I think setting that expectation on the front end is probably the biggest place that we as parents, as business owners, as spouses, like that's where we fail the most, right?
Yes.
Is we don't set that expectation, because I know that when I set the expectation for someone to be there and on time, it is more important for me to be there and on time. And I can live and breathe that through 20 and 21 showing property, right? If you didn't show up for your 15-minute scheduled window, there was a line of cars waiting and agents did not want you impeding on their time, and they would like fist fight you. Mm-hmm. Like legitimately fist fight you if you tried to go in at their time. And so that was a good eye opener for me, that really, if you set these expectations, I think we feel like people are going to be angry at us if we tell them what we expect, especially with our time. And I think, again, the book just keeps saying he doesn't lose clients. As a matter of fact, when he started setting the expectations and telling people, listen, if you want to talk to me, you got to go through my assistant and send me a fax. The few people that would probably not send the fax, those are the jerks you don't want to work with anyway. Right? And so coming up with these systems that feel awkward and hard, I think would be super, super, super beneficial. So the next thing he kind of talks about is self-discipline is magic. What does that feel like? I mean, who on this call is self-disciplined even in one area of your life at 100%?
100%.
Like I don't know that there's any area of my life that I am 100%, with the exception of one thing. My husband and I are so self-disciplined. We do not miss a date night on Thursday nights, no matter how we have to shift it. So I know I have the ability, right? So what is one area of y'all's life you feel like you're at least at 80%? How can you use that and magnify that to the rest of your life to be disciplined?
So for me, as like a part-time business owner, in a sense, I have like, so basically when I get up, my reason for getting up early enough before, working my day job is the fact of, okay, well, I gotta spend at least 1 hour in my business. Cause I mean, you get out what you put in. So it's like, if I'm not doing that on a regular basis, how am I going to expect anything out of the business? you know. So that for me is probably the only thing that I'd say, or the one thing that I'd say, you know, I'm pretty consistent about, because I mean, you know, I've got to be able to set it aside to jump back into my day job, you know, and then still be able to pick it back up. And if I haven't put that time in, then it's like, you know, you are consistently putting out fires because you don't have time for anything else, you know.
I'm very consistent with lead gen, like in the mornings, like 8:30, 8:45. I'm in here. I'm on the phone. Sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 8:30, whatever. But I know the value of it. I jump on the phones. Now that being said, by the time we get to 11 o'clock, the rest of the day can be a complete train wreck. But at least I know the point. You know what? I got to start making some phone calls. You know, family wise, I mean, we're starting to implement some things. We've started date night Monday nights. Like, even if it's just going out after the kids go to bed and go to Chick-fil-A and get a milkshake and just sit, just to get off campus. Something different happens when you're off campus than when you're in the midst of the craziness. So we've been doing that a lot. Unfortunately, last night was a complete train wreck. So we're going to night. So we had to move it to night, but we're not missing the week. But just the rhythm of it changes. Like, I mean, if you can get in the rhythm, that's the hard part. I mean, and we all have to realize that. Like, if I want to get into the thing where I exercise like every day of the week, I've got to exercise today and tomorrow and the next day. And then at 3 days, then we'll figure out where we are. But I say, yeah, I'm going to exercise every single day for the next month, and I don't do it today. It's like, well, that was fun, you know? So I think it's just the repetition of like, and being like serious about it.
Alicia, where are you winning in your time management?
I think so. In the few minutes I missed, did you talk about the sheet you wanted us to follow all week?
We did not, no.
Okay. Then I'll save that for later. I think my family would use the words self-discipline to describe me. But I think in terms of what I'm working on right now is I'm trying to be better about things that other people can solve. They need to solve them, even if it would be faster for me to do it. So I'm trying to break that bad habit and discipline not only myself, but the other people who are asking me in the first place. Again, an interruption, a time vampire. It becomes all of those things, and trying to say, you know where it is, or you have the resources, or I'm busy right now, and if you can't figure it out at 2:30, we can talk about your backpack being broken, or like whatever it is.
Right. Well, and when you allow someone to actually problem solve like that, right? And I say allow because when you figure it out for them, you're taking something actually from them, right? So not only are you teaching them a good time management skill, you're allowing them to succeed and usually fail forward in what should be considered a safe environment. If it's an employee, if it's a kid, if it's a spouse, right? And that's where we learn the best. And that's where the people you're trying to manage, family, friends, kid, doesn't matter. That's where they get the most learning, right? Oh, I can save time here. Look how good this felt to take on XYZ. And then it's done and you weren't distracted, right? So as far as self-discipline goes, because I'll kind of speed up, we've got about 7 minutes. Talks about awareness, be aware of your time, make deliberate decisions on your time, and then action. Think, then act, don't wait. I think that's probably a huge one and a great way to kind of close that chapter, right? So many of us are, I'm going to do this. And Kyle Wiesel sent out something today that was talking about, should you start farming? It's like, well, you got 6 weeks. Most of you are going to wait till January. Start today, right? Don't wait, because what you're doing today in real estate dictates your paycheck 90 days from now, right? What you do today is paid in 90 days. So the last chapter that we went over this week was self-discipline environment must be cannot created. So success leaves clues. How many of you guys find clues as you kind of walk backwards through your day when you reflect on your day as to how you were successful in different areas?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably all do. This was kind of a short chapter. Really, the biggest thing I got out of there is success leaves clues.
One of my favorite sayings in real estate, and every time I see somebody say success leaves clues, a realtor that I know said success leaves clues, but failure leaves a treasure map.
Right.
I'm like, every time I see success leaves clues, I'm
failure leaves a treasure.
like, but failure leaves a treasure map. You know, like but it's that same thing. It's like we've got to pay attention to what are we doing. You know, because all the answers are right there. I mean,
1,000%.
Like the real estate thing. I mean, I like to pat myself on the back for being somewhat successful, whatever. But it's really not that hard. I mean, the answer's right there. I mean, what are they doing? Do what they do, and you'll be a really good realtor. And don't do what that guy does over there because he's terrible.
Yes. Yes.
And do what that guy does. That he's obvious at what he does. Just do that.
Yes. And the kind of the last sentence, the last part of that chapter is find your irresistible motivation, because that's going to give you your most advantage over time management, right? And to me, that is find your big why, right? If you don't know your big why after you get off the phone call today, I would encourage you to go find it. What I'd like to do now is, David and Alicia, do y'all each want to take like 60 seconds to talk about how you implemented last week's strategies?
Last week's strategies.
We'll let Alicia go first. We'll let Alicia go first because she seems prepared.
You mean the last 3 chapters?
Well, we kind of talked about what we were going to do differently this week from our chapters that we read last week. How are you handling that? How's that look in your life?
Yes. So you asked us all to follow at least the 5 work days or whatever, to follow a schedule. So I went and I printed out this thing, my productive day. And it was great because I think a lot of times, like I'll make like a sticky note or a scrap sheet of paper and write down all the things I need to do. Right. You always avoid the ones you don't want to do. But it was very simple of having like these little boxes that say like today's goal, the priority, to do, and then appointments. Like it was just a generic one I found, but I liked that it made me like separate out. And I ended up a couple days moving the to-do list to the next day, but accomplishing those big things, right? Or prioritizing my mandatory training and making sure that I didn't miss book club or this drop off or whatever it was broken down for me. And so instead of having to track all of that up here, it was on my paper. And so the first day, I think my husband saw the stack I printed out and he's like, oh, can I have one of those? I'm like, yeah, here you go. And then by like the 3rd day, I think it was Friday, my daughter saw the paper and she was like, can I please have a my productive day so I can plan out my Saturday? And I'm like, yes, I'll print you one while you're at school. She came home and was like, Mama, did you print out my sheet? I'm like, no, but bring me my laptop. She got up, got my laptop. I printed it out. I'm like, it's on the printer. And she's like, thank you. So she wanted to have a my productive Saturday and chart it all out. So I like that. Just the fact that the papers are laying around are helping everybody around me do their own thing and get their stuff accomplished so that I can get my stuff accomplished, right? That eliminates some of those interruptions for me too. So I loved it. I have one for today. It's
Perfect. David, how did writing down your schedule and kind of working through what we went over last week feel for you this week? You got 1 minute.
So yeah, so basically I've been implementing a new I guess strategy and really more kind of systemizing it. So my calendars have actually been pulled into a central location. And then now I've been working with Desiree to kind of pull it all into ClickUp so that, because I actually check my calendar every morning. And then on a weekly basis, Lexi and I actually sit down and plan out the week because there are so many different things that we got to do. And if you don't plan it at the beginning of the week, or if you don't plan it at the beginning of the day, you know, so, but I mean, it's crucial. I mean, you have to do it. And I mean, that exercise is just, you know, kind of a reiteration of it.
Gotcha. So Steve, I'm gonna kind of challenge everybody again, the same thing for this week. So if you don't have a big why and you don't know what your irresistible motivation is, go figure it out this week. And then I would love a 60-second report at the end of next week's call. Again, just kind of on the same thing. What were your wins this week? What did you do to implement that schedule? How does it feel? What is changing? My biggest thing for me is I sat down and I lead gen 4 days out of 5 last week, which is huge because I don't think I did that for 4 days out of 365 last year. So, for me,
how many chapters?
So I would say for next week, it looks like chapter 7.
7 looks long.
7 looks like there's a lot of talking points. It doesn't look like there's a lot of reading. So I would say let's do 7 and 8. Does that feel okay? Or do you guys want to try to get 9 in there? It just looks like 9 might have a lot of maybe conversational pieces as well. Do y'all want to try to do 3 more chapters or just 2 for next week? I'm game for either. We have like 2 seconds to just, okay.
2. 7 and 8, be there or be square.
See y'all. I will let Penelope know.